My next guest has protected an American president and the first family worldwide as being part of the Presidential Protection Division of the Secret Service. He's now demanding answers about the assassination attempt on President Trump's life just 2 weeks ago. Please welcome former Special Agent Mike Matranga of the U.S. Secret Service. Mike, it's great having you here. Your visit is quite timely in light of what's happened. Were you shocked by what appeared to be a colossal breakdown in the protection of Donald Trump?
Shocked, yes, but not surprised.
Why were you not surprised?
I think what the general public and the American people don't know is that the United States Secret Service is esteemed as they are. For the last decade and a half, they've been underfunded and mismanaged since the transition of from the Department of Treasury to the Department of Homeland Security. And the director after director after director, past directors have gone and they've sought additional funding. And though there have been some increases, there's also been increases in responsibility, making it hard for the agency to continue to keep such a high level of diligence.
The budget has increased, but how many more people is the agency required to protect than they were, let's say, 10, 15 years ago?
Well, if you look back, starting back at, I want to say, at the end of the Bush 43 administration, into the Obama, into the Trump administration, and now the Biden administration, we just saw a couple days ago the director of the Secret Service, now former director of the Secret Service, admit that we're covering, or they are covering, 36 full-time protectees. And, you know, if you look at the Secret Service's mission, we have a dual mission. We have investigative and we have a protective mission, which is now becoming a more growing demand, right? Currently, there's 36 full-time protectees. That's simply just too many. And I believe that the issue really lies with the Department of Homeland Security not being able to tell the current administration, guys, we can no longer continue at this pace. We are losing agents, good qualified agents, due to the high tempo and operational demands of the service that you continue to keep adding to us. We have to get to a point where we're honest with ourselves, where we're honest with our administration, and say we can no longer continue at this level of protection.
Mike, you were on the presidential detail, which meant you were literally shoulder to shoulder with the President of the United States, traveling with the President. What went wrong in Butler, Pennsylvania, just from your vantage point? I mean, we saw the agents who were immediately around the president, and it looked like they were right on the spot. I mean, they were there immediately. Sure. They shielded him. But the whole idea that a 20-year-old kid could get on a roof within 130 yards of clear sight of the president, yeah. What went wrong? Whose fault was it?
Well, I think that we could be here for a couple hours examining this, honestly. There's a multitude of things that went wrong. First of all, like I said, I believe that the event itself was understaffed. When you look at the First Lady having an event in the same region, an indoor event with 400 people, having 12 Secret Service post-standers, what we call post-standers, and then at this particular event, an outdoor event with 20,000 people, and they being that particular event being assigned 3 post-standers.
3.
You have to ask yourself, and that was verified through testimony, you have to ask yourself, was that politically motivated, or are they trying to assess, well, she's the First Lady, he's the former president? But that doesn't really hold water either, because what we know is that the current or the former president had an actual state threat against him by Iran, which should have elevated that threat level, which means he should have been able to have additional resources. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that at 150 yards and in, that is what I would call, being a former counter-assault team operator for the president's detail, that would be our inner perimeter. I think that whoever did the advance made a tremendous miscalculation of identifying that as an outer perimeter, which usually is manned by local authorities who are more like not necessarily a discretionary post, but they're there just as a deterrent. And so I think that was one of the reasons why. But I think the real reason why that we need to start talking about as Americans is the fact that our country has become so divisive that political violence is now acceptable, and that we have to start being, as a whole, Americans, before we're Republican or before we're Democrat, so that we can continue this beautiful democracy that we have. And so I think that my prediction is moving forward as we get closer to the general election, we're going to see additional political violence. We saw that happening in D.C. yesterday with President Netanyahu.
Yeah.
So there's multiple things that have happened. You can't really say there was one particular event that led to that. I also believe that the Secret Service for a very long time has been promoting people based upon not their merit. We've got to get back to that in this country, to promote people based upon their qualifications. The risks are too high. This is the former president of the United States.
Yeah.
Can we ask ourselves honestly, what would have happened if he would have been assassinated? What type of civil unrest we would probably be dealing with today?
And we were fraction of an inch away from that very thing you described. I hope it's a wake-up call. I was really grateful that Democrats and Republicans, and I say this, I said it tongue-in-cheek before, but absolutely with great sense of seriousness, that they came together over this issue and were going to insist that somebody be held accountable. And there was no daylight between Democrats and Republicans in the repudiation of the manner in which this was handled. I hope that we'll continue to see that as it relates. Mike, it's great to have you here and get your perspective. Timely and fact to see you. You can find out more about Mike's job. One of his jobs now is keeping workplaces, communities, and schools safe with his organization, M6 Global Defense. Find out all about it by visiting Huckabee.tv. We have links.